So one question I've been asked is regarding the future of the reveal of truth and the end of the cabal on this planet. I've been asked, will there be arrests of key individuals and deep state politicians, and will the entire government be replaced by different people of the light, or people of our choosing? So what I would say to that is, I've been taught by the Nine not to interpret what the energetic frequency that I see actually means, unless that's already occurred, and then you can interpret it because it's happened. So before something's happened, no one knows exactly how that frequency will manifest in the third dimension. But what I would say is, yes, those things do fit that energetic. And I'm looking here at what the Nine call pre-matter or pre-manifest. It's the blueprint behind the manifestation. You could see this as fourth dimensional or multidimensional. Many things you can call this precursor to manifestation, which is really just a geometric structure created by cohesive, focused thought. That's what creates it. So arrests. Well, what I'm seeing here is when it comes to people in government, looking further into the future, we do have a very much Knights of the Round Table situation. So we have a self-governing society, if you like. That's more in the future. So coming back a little bit into our more immediate future, that will start off with fair government rulers, leaders, and that will sort of morph over time into a self-governing society. But to start off with, yes, we will have these government leaders that will all be fair and honourable and non-cabal. That's not where we are now, but we're certainly on that trajectory. But when it comes to arrests, I don't know how this will manifest. Now, having these individuals arrested does fit the energy, but there could be other things that occur as well. There certainly will be a shift and a change. So whether people are actually arrested, I would say yes. That certainly looks like how that's going to be. But there could be more to it than that. There could be different ways that these individuals are sort of dealt with, if you like. Ultimately, justice will be done, because it has to be, because the energetic of this planet right now is of a positive polarized frequency. So everything flips into the positive polarized match, which is service to others, which is fairness, integrity, truth, justice. Everything is flipping into that. So when it comes to government leaders and government officials being replaced by others, now that's a literal interpretation of what is happening, because let's say you have a government member, a member of the government, a member of the Senate, if you like, by the name of Joe, and you have another member of the Senate but by the name of Jane. So you've got Joe and Jane. Well, what might happen with Joe, in order for light to come into that structure, is Joe is arrested and Joe is taken away, and someone of the light takes their place. But what might happen with, say, Jane, is that Jane was controlled by the cabal. Jane was doing the cabal's work, if you like. But as the cabal rule lessens and ends within this dimension, and the polarity within all of us is raised, and fairness and integrity and honesty starts to come to the fore in individuals who are receptive to that flow, Jane might change from a brainwashed, mind-controlled, cabal-controlled person into a free one. Jane then becomes her true self. She goes back to an organic configuration and becomes independent. So she was once a cabal controlled government member, and she's now of the light, but she's the same person. So when it comes to changing the entire government, it doesn't mean that every single member of the government will be changed and taken out and someone else will be put in. It may be that they will change from one thing to another within them. But the answer is yes. Ultimately, there will be arrests. There will be changes within the government structures, and that's definitely what is set for us within the trajectory. And we have to go through some chaotic times before that happens. We have to go through lots of upheaval, and it isn't just the government officials that are changing, it's everybody. We are all merging with this positive polarization on this planet. The individuals who are already positively polarized are having a nice easy ride, even though they might look at chaos going on around them. Their own individual lives are actually going to be quite blissful, even when there are difficult emotional challenges in their lives. And that's not to say that they won't experience negative emotions and sadness and grief and depression and anger. That's not to say they won't experience them, but they're having an easier ride because they are ultimately positively polarized. So everything is perceived differently, and everything is dealt with so much quicker. The integration is already taking place. So those individuals are seeing the blossoming of the reality that they've always envisaged for themselves. And they've known since childhood that this situation on this planet and the way that this planet is run and the system is not right. It is not a self-serving system. It's a self-serving system. I mean, it doesn't serve the individual. The individual can't succeed in this system. They are being restricted, and the starseed children have known this from very, very young. So they may have waited many, many years to see this actually manifest. So for them, it's a bit of a celebration, because to them, what they are thinking is, at last we are seeing results. As in, the truth is being told to the world, and corruption is being removed, and corrupt individuals are being removed and brought to justice. So it's something they've waited for. And it's not just about arrests, and it's not just about change in government positions. There's so much to this entire consciousness shift that's occurring on this planet. So, as I said, I don't try and interpret too much what that frequency is, but the frequency is, without a doubt, this positive polarized stream that's now coming down into the third dimension, and it's coming down much faster than it was 6 months ago, even 3 months ago. It's coming down much faster, because what's happened is that there's such a thing as a vertical ascension. There's such a thing as vertical, from the pre-manifest and the pre-matter. There is such a thing as a vertical directional energy formation from this pre-matter to fall vertically into the third dimension. All of this is just directional interpretation for the third dimensional brain to understand. There is no real direction. It's all just a one moment energy. But I use direction, or rather the nine teach by direction, because we have to interpret all this through a third dimensional brain. So if you would imagine that before, when something was coming down from pre-matter and pre-manifest into the third dimension, it would kind of go zigzag, spiral. It would have to sort of take a long way around, if you like, to get here, because there were so many blocks in place and so many traps in place and so many false lights and false matrices and an inverted matrix. But because these structures are being removed dramatically, because of all the work the starseeds are doing collectively and everything that's occurring within the third dimension, politically and in many other systems, as above, so below. So the reflection within 3D is creating a higher dimensional reflection, and the reflection within the higher dimensions are creating the third dimensional reflection. It all happens simultaneously. So instead of energy having to come from pre-manifest and pre-matter sort of round this long sort of convoluted way to get here, it's just coming down vertically. It's like these vertical tubes, and it creates a fast tracking because it's a much smoother, easier conduit. Anyone who understands about sacred geometry and mathematics will understand what this means more so than I would. This also applies to our ascension experience, because if we can come down energetically, we can go up energetically. So ascension for a long time on this planet, for many, many, many years, I don't know how long, but for a long, long time, we've had to do the same thing. When we go through ascension, we've had to go the long way round, sort of go through this bit and up here and round here. And, you know, metaphorically, we've had to find these conduits, these sort of tubes, rods, if you like, to go through to get to ascension, to get to the higher planes. The stargates have been blocked and altered and distorted, and we've been misdirected, if you like, and ended up back in incarnation on Earth against our will. This has been happening for a long time. I've spoken about this before, but now we've got vertical ascension rods or tubes or whatever you want to call them, to be able to make a vertical ascension. So we can go upwards in a nice, smooth line. Somebody commented on Facebook. I can't remember what the comment I wrote was, but it was about the change in these galactic structures. And someone said, it's straightened out the galactic grids. And I thought that was an excellent way to put it, because that's exactly what's happened. They've moved into this vertical configuration. So sacred geometry has the answers there. I would also add, somebody said to me, they don't want to go through vertical ascension, they'd rather go through the caduceus movement. Well, it's that simultaneously. So if you look at the caduceus, you've got this spiraling caduceus, and you've got the pillar of light in the middle, this vertical pillar. You're doing both. The caduceus is the energy that assists with the vertical raising. So that's the kundalini. That's the kundalini fire as it raises upwards, and the vertical rod in the middle is your vertical ascension. So these configurations are now organic structures. They are losing these false screens and these false matrices. But this all depends on you and where you are with your emotions. If you are holding a lot of unresolved trauma, and you're very, very sort of triggered, if you like, about what's going on the planet right now and what's going on within the political scene, and you're very angry, and you're incredibly angry when someone else has an opposing viewpoint, that's how to know if you have unresolved trauma. If someone else's opinion makes you angry, then you've got some unresolved trauma there to deal with. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why this is all coming out, so that we can all resolve it. So that's how to know that if you're triggered. But what occurs there is when you have this unresolved trauma and you're being triggered by someone's opposing view, it's not as easy for you to use this kundalini ascension with this caduceus coil and the vertical pillar of light, because those trapping systems are linked to your emotional responses. So the trapping systems for you will there'll still be a shadow element, if you like, to them. The more you integrate these traumas that are coming up to be healed, the more you will be able to utilize these new galactic structures. So somebody who is very clear and is not triggered by someone's opposing view. If somebody says the opposing viewpoint to you, and you're not angry, you're not annoyed or upset, and you know, you don't want to shout and scream at this other person and tell them that they're completely crazy and ridiculous and insane. If you just think, well, that's their opinion, that's fine, you know, for whatever reason, but you're not triggered yourself, then you are not someone who's in an unhealed traumatic state, and you'll be able to use these structures. Now, you can use these structures for ascension, but it works both ways. So you use the structure for ascension, you also use it for manifestation. So you draw down the pre-manifestation, the pre-matter, which is your thought structure. So you can create that way, and you can also ascend that way. You can also raise upwards that way, and that is when you become this individual who's able to merge with multi-dimensions. That's because the DNA structure is changing, everything is all unified. So when it comes to arrests and changes in government, the energetic pre-manifestation matches that potential outcome, but it may not exactly work out in the way that you've envisaged, as in come all these military personnel, march the government out in handcuffs, throw them in jail, and bring in a whole load of new people. That's potentially just a little bit too literal for how it's going to work. But yes, the energy does fit. So I hope that's kind of summed that one up, and that's about it really. So got somebody outside my window who's very triggered. Oh dear. Anyway, that's about it. So thank you for listening, and I will speak to you again. Bye.
In this channeled transmission, I enter into an expansive, transformative and activating exploration of interdimensional dialogue, discussing the mechanics of Stargate Ascension. This cutting-edge information holds key codes, maps and coordinates for the starseeds on Earth, as they go through this process of DNA reconstruction and regrouping of cosmic memory themselves. The significant codex of information is downloaded to the reader, as they, through this sacred text, are called by the Dragon, Excalibur, Crystalline Light Geometry, Atlantis, and the Emerald Flame. I am so very pleased to present my new book, The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame.